Emma had always thought she understood Labradors completely. Over the past 10 years, she had cared for countless dogs of this breed, all cheerful, energetic, and always eager to greet everyone with tails wagging endlessly. So when Honey came into her life, Emma was completely shocked. Before we dive into the story, please leave a comment below to let me know where in the world you're watching from today. Honey was found at an illegal breeding facility that had been shut down. When the rescue team arrived, they found dozens of dogs locked in cramped cages with no light and no love. The other dogs gradually recovered after being rescued. But Honey was different. This small golden Labrador had none of the typical traits of a normal dog. Honey's brown eyes held no sparkle, no curiosity characteristic of the Labrador breed. Instead, they carried a deep sadness, as if the soul of a puppy had been locked away, somewhere far away. On his first day, at Emma's house, Honey didn't run around, exploring the house like other dogs usually do. He just sat quietly in the corner, head down, as if trying to become invisible. Emma had prepared all kinds of toys, tennis balls, frisbees, rope toys, stuffed animals. But Honey didn't pay attention to any of them. It wasn't until that afternoon when Emma was cleaning out the storage corner that Honey showed his first reaction. The small dog slowly walked over to an old toy box and gently picked up a small brown stuffed rabbit. The stuffed rabbit was old, seemingly welliced with a bit of wear on the ears and legs. From that moment on, Honey never left the brown stuffed rabbit. He held the rabbit when sleeping, carried the rabbit when walking around, and placed the rabbit right beside him when eating. Emma observed and realized that Honey wasn't playing with the stuffed rabbit. He didn't toss the rabbit up, didn't shake the rabbit, didn't bite the rabbit. Honey simply kept the rabbit close, as if that small brown stuffed rabbit was the only thing in this world that made Honey feel safe. Emma understood that for Honey, the stuffed rabbit wasn't a toy. The rabbit was a friend, a shield, the only thing he could trust absolutely, because the rabbit could never hurt him. Everything changed on a stormy night. In October, Emma heard weak cries from the porch, and when she opened the door, she found a tiny kitten soaked and shivering. But this wasn't an ordinary house cat. The pointed ears, large round yellow eyes, and faint spots on his fur showed this was a Bobcat Kitten. Emma knew she couldn't let this kitten die. In the cold rain, Ziggy, the name she gave the little bobcat, was brought inside and placed in a warm box with blankets and a heating lamp. But Ziggy wouldn't stay put. His wild instincts made him constantly seek dark places to hide. Honey first met Ziggy. The next morning, the Labrador was carrying his brown stuffed rabbit down to the kitchen when he suddenly stopped. In the dark corner under the stairs, two small yellow eyes were staring out. Instead of being scared or noisily curious, like other dogs might react, Honey simply stood still and observed Ziggy did the same. The two small animals looked at each other in silence, as if understanding something that Emma couldn't grasp. Over the following days, something strange began to happen. Honey, the dog who had only cared about his brown stuffed rabbit, began to notice Ziggy. He didn't approach noisily or rushingly, but gradually shortened the distance between his sitting spot and where Ziggy was hiding. Then one day, Emma witnessed something unbelievable. Honey went around the house, searching for other small toys. A reed rubber ball, a fabric mouse, a small plastic bone. He brought them near where Ziggy was hiding and gently set them down, then backed away. A respectful distance. Ziggy, curious but cautious, slowly came out and touched the toys. The Bobcat Kitten didn't bite or scratch them, but only gently pushed them with his paws, as if learning how to play. Honey watched from afar, still holding his brown stuffed rabbit, but his eye had something for the first time interest. Gradually, the two began to share space. They created a shared play corner under the stairs where small toys were carefully arranged. Honey taught Ziggy how to play gently by demonstrating, not through words or force. Ziggy learned to respect toys, not to damage them. Emma realized this was the first time since coming home that Honey had voluntarily shared anything, and Ziggy, the small wild kitten, had learned to trust from a dog who was also learning to trust. The two became silent friends, no loud barking or meowing, just peaceful presence together, sharing afternoon sunlight through the window and the small toys they had learned to cherish. In the mornings, Emma often found the two sitting together in their play corner. Honey still kept his brown stuffed rabbit close by, but now he also paid attention to whether Ziggy had enough toys. Sometimes Honey would gently push a toy toward Ziggy as if saying, "Hey, you need to have fun too." Ziggy from a frightened wild bobcat began to show similar behaviors. He would hunt the toys gently, never scratching or damaging them, and when tired, Ziggy would lie near, Honey both taking peaceful naps together. In the warm sunlight, November arrived, with dry winds and wildfire warnings. Emma had lived through wildfires before, but that night was different. The alarm siren sounded at 2 in the morning, and when Emma looked out the window, she could see the orange-red glow of fire on the hilltop just a few kilometers from the house. The emergency evacuation plan was activated. Emma quickly prepared essentials, important documents, medicines, food, and water for the animals. She had exactly 15 minutes before having to leave the house. But when Emma called for Honey and Ziggy to get them into the car, she couldn't find them anywhere. The warning siren sounded increasingly urgent. Smoke began drifting into the house through door cracks. Emma ran throughout the house, calling their names. Her heart pounded, ashing, thought about the possibility of having to leave her 2 small friends behind. Finally, she found them in the bedroom. Ziggy cowering under the bed too, frightened to move, and Honey standing beside him, refusing to leave. Emma screamed with a trembling voice. Only 5 minutes remained before she had to leave the house with or without the 2 animals. The smoke grew thicker and she could hear the crackling of fire from behind the house. The air was hot and heavy, making breathing difficult. That's when Emma witnessed something unforgettable. Honey, the small dog who had spent his entire life avoiding everything, frightening, slowly bent down and gently took Ziggy by the scruff. His brown eyes no longer showed fear but were filled with determination, something Emma had never seen in Honey before. The Bobcat Kitten, completely trusting his only friend, allowed Honey to pull him out from under the bed. Through the smoke and deafening alarm sirens, Honey led the way to the door, not with panic or haste, but with a calm determination that Emma had never seen in him before. Ziggy clung to Honey's back and the 2 moved as one, unified, being as if they had practiced this movement hundreds of times. When they reached the car, Emma quickly opened the back door. Honey gently placed Ziggy on the seat, then jumped up beside him. For the first time since Emma had known him, Honey didn't search for his brown stuffed rabbit. Instead, he was completely focused on comforting Ziggy, who was trembling with fear. In the truck, as Emma drove away from the danger zone with shaking hands, she glanced in the rearview mirror. Honey and Ziggy were curled up together in the back seat. Ziggy was nestled in Honey's embrace, and Honey, for the first time since Emma had known him, wasn't holding his brown stuffed rabbit. He was holding something far more important, a real friend who needed protection. Fire truck sirens on rescue plane sounds echoed throughout the night, creating a symphony of emergency. Emma parked at the temporary evacuation center where hundreds of others were also waiting for news about their homes. In the dim light of emergency lamps, she observed her 2 small friends. Honey wasn't trembling or anxious as she thought he would react in this situation. Instead, he was completely focused on comforting Ziggy, who was clearly overwhelmed by all the strange sounds and smells. Honey used his body to shield Ziggy from the bright lights and noise, creating a small, safe space. Amid the chaos, Emma felt her heart tighten. She realized she was witnessing a complete transformation. Honey, the dog who had only known how to seek safety for himself, had now become a source of safety for someone else, and in protecting Ziggy, he had found a kind of strength he never knew he possessed. The night stretched on like a nightmare, but when dawn broke, good news arrived. The firefighters had controlled the blaze. Emma's house was safe. Fortunately, Emma's house was saved. The firefighters had extinguished the blaze before reaching her area. 3 days later, they were allowed to return home, but something had changed forever. When they stepped into the familiar house, Emma immediately noticed a difference. Honey still loved his brown stuffed rabbit, but now he no longer needed to hold the rabbit constantly. Instead, he had found a new purpose, becoming Ziggy's official protector. Every morning, instead of sitting quietly in the corner with his toy as before, Honey would check on Ziggy to see if he was okay, and if he needed anything, he would walk around the house ensuring there were no dangers, then returned to report to Ziggy with a gentle nose touch. Ziggy, from a frightened wild bobcat, had learned to trust deeply. Not just trusting Honey, but trusting Emma, trusting the house. trusting that he had found a real family where he was loved and protected. Their shared play corner under the stairs was now expanded into the living room. The toys were no longer protected anxiously as before, but shared naturally and joyfully. Emma often saw Honey bringing new toys to Ziggy, and Ziggy, with his natural wildcat instincts, would hunt those toys playfully, but gently, never damaging them. In the afternoons, the two would lie together in the sunlight streaming through the window. Honey no longer needed to hold his stuffed rabbit to feel safe. He had found a different kind of safety. The safety that comes from knowing he could protect and care for someone. Emma often sat watching them with a cup of coffee in hand, reflecting on what she had learned. She realized that healing doesn't mean forgetting the past or becoming someone completely different. Sometimes healing means finding someone worth being brave for. Honey was still the quiet, sensitive dog that Emma had loved from the first day. But now he was also a reliable protector, a loyal friend, and an important part of a small family that had learned to love each other through trials. 6 months after the fateful wildfire night, Emma sat on the wooden porch watching Honey and Ziggy play in the backyard. Ziggy, now much larger but still maintaining his distinctive wild appearance with clear spots and sharp yellow eyes, was hunting a tennis ball that Honey had just rolled to him. Honey sat watching with eyes full of joy and pride, tail wagging gently to the rhythm of a happy heart. The transformation in both animals was remarkable. Honey had developed into a confident, protective companion who still retained his gentle nature, but no longer cowered from the world. His coat had grown fuller and shinier, and there was a lightness in his step that hadn't been there before. The anxious, withdrawn dog who had once hidden in corners had blossomed into a leader, not aggressive or dominating, but quietly assured in his role as Ziggy's guardian. Ziggy had grown into a magnificent young bobcat. His wild instincts, perfectly balanced with the trust and affection he had learned from his unusual family. His hunting skills were sharp. He could catch insects and small creatures in the yard with lightning speed, yet he was incredibly gentle with his toys and with Honey. Though a terrified kitten who had once hidden under furniture, now moved through the house with confident, graceful strides, claiming his place in this human world while never losing his wild essence. The brown stuffed rabbit still held a special place in Honey's heart, but now was carefully placed on a shelf in the living room, more like a precious moment of the past than an inseparable object. Emma had noticed that on particularly stressful days during thunderstorms or when strangers visited, Honey would sometimes glance toward the shelf as if drawing strength from the memory of that brown rabbit rather than needing its physical presence. He had learned that true safety doesn't come from clinging to things that can't hurt us, but from having the courage to love and protect what is truly valuable. Their daily routines had become a beautiful dance of companionship. Each morning, Honey would perform his safety patrol of the house and yard, checking every corner and shadow before returning to Ziggy with a satisfied wag of his tail. Ziggy would respond with a gentle head bump against Honey's shoulder. Their secret language of all is well. Then they would share breakfast, not from the same bowl but side by side, each respecting the other's space while enjoying the comfort of togetherness. In the afternoons, they had developed a game that never failed to make Emma smile. Ziggy would hide somewhere in the house behind furniture, under beds and closets, and Honey would search for him with mock seriousness, his tail wagging the entire time. When he found Ziggy, there would be a moment of stillness, almost like their first meeting, before Ziggy would pounce playfully and they would tumble together in a gentle wrestling match that always ended with both of them sprawled in a sunny spot, contentedly grooming each other. The local veterinarian had initially expressed concerns about keeping a wild bobcat as a companion animal, but during Ziggy's regular checkups, even the most skeptical staff members had been won over by the unusual bond between the two animals. Ziggy showed no signs of stress or behavioral problems that typically plagued wild animals in captivity. Instead, he exhibited a perfect balance of wild confidence and domestic contentment that amazed everyone who met him. Emma had started keeping a journal about their journey together, documenting the small victories and breakthrough moments. She wrote about the first time Honey barked to alert her that Ziggy was stuck on top of a bookshelf, showing protective instincts he'd never displayed before. She recorded the evening when Ziggy brought Honey a dead mouse as a gift, a behavior that initially alarmed Emma until she realized it was Ziggy's way of contributing to their family using his natural hunting skills to provide. For his friend, the house itself seemed to have absorbed their healing energy. Visitors often commented on the peaceful atmosphere, the way sunlight seemed to linger longer in the rooms where Honey and Ziggy spent their time. Emma had removed unnecessary furniture and created more open spaces where her two friends could move freely, transforming the house into a sanctuary that honored both domestic comfort and wild freedom. On this particular evening, as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that reminded Emma of that frightening night. 6 months ago, she watched Ziggy teach Honey a new game. The bobcat had discovered that if he climbed to the top of his cat tree and dropped a toy, Honey would catch it and bring it back. It was a game that played to both their strengths, Ziggy's climbing ability and Honey's retrieving instincts. As darkness settled over their peaceful home, Emma called them inside. Honey trotted up the porch steps with his characteristic gentle smile, while Ziggy bounded after him with the fluid grace of his wild heritage. Inside, they settled into their evening routine. Honey on his favorite cushion by the fireplace, Ziggy curled on the armchair nearby, both watching Emma as she prepared their dinner. Emma smiled as she watched her two small friends, remembering the broken, fearful animals they had once been. They had taught her the most important lesson about life. Sometimes the most wounded souls have the ability to heal each other in ways no one could predict. Love, she had learned, wasn't just about giving comfort. It was about creating space for others to discover their own strength, their own courage, their own capacity for joy. And in the warm glow of the evening lights, with the gentle sounds of two content animals settling in for the night, the small house by the forest was filled with love. The kind of love that comes from giving, from protecting, from healing, and from finding family in the most unexpected places. It was a love that had transformed not just two damaged animals, but had created something entirely new. A family that proved that sometimes the most beautiful bonds are forged not in similarity, but in the courage to trust across all differences. True love isn't about holding tightly to what makes us safe, but about having the courage to share that safety with someone who needs it more than we do. Sometimes the most wounded hearts have the ability to heal each other in the most miraculous ways. And sometimes, to find ourselves, we need to find someone worth being brave for. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like. And if you want to follow more stories about hope, rescue, and the quiet magic of second chances, please subscribe. Every bit of support helps us share more love.